Hey guys, how you doing? So this video is a review of a Nissan NV200 that we had for 3 days as a rental. Did quite a lot of miles in it, drove in all sorts of different roads, had it loaded, had it unloaded. This is what we found. I'm just going to go through the article. It's on strikeengine.com. So if you want to see if you want to read the article, link is in the video description. So had the van for 3 days. This is a picture of it parked in Thessaloniki by the port in Thessaloniki, if you're interested. So what's covered in this review? I'm going to go through the interior, the exterior and the mechanicals of the vehicle. For the interior, I'm going to cover what sort of materials it's used, the features it's got, the toys, the seats, general comfort inside, the visibility, storage and what I believe will be the durability of the stuff inside. Exterior, basically the looks of it. In the mechanical section, we're going to look at fuel economy, engine power, the steering feel, build quality, the driveline, the transmission, when that's like to use, the gear change, the clutch, general characteristics of the car. So this specific vehicle, the basics of it, it was a 1.5 DCI with a K9K Renault diesel engine in it. It was actually a 7-seater minibus, which the rental company that we've got it from, Vans in Thessaloniki, they'd taken all the seats out so we could use it as a van. So it meant it had windows all round, front, back, sides, and it also had carpet at the bottom, so that made it a bit quieter, which is not necessarily a bad thing. The car had 83,000 kilometers on it, I think, and I'm presuming it's going to be around 3 years old. So interior, first starting with the seat comfort, the seats were okay. I mean, it's a van, you're not putting that much lateral force through it, so they were supportive enough for van seats. The seat bases, they were okay if you're going to sit in them for 45 minutes, but more than an hour, I think you're going to start to feel your ass going numb. Seat, I've been in it probably about 30 minutes now, and it's still comfortable. Absolutely no arse aches at all. So in that respect, not great. And then going back to the Mark 1 Focus after the NV200, the seats in the Focus seemed much better. So yeah, for a van, I think the seats are a bit of a letdown. But the driving position was a-okay. I didn't feel any need to move the seat forward or back. I didn't feel a need to adjust the position of the steering wheel. It was a nice driving position all round. About the materials that they use in the interior, sure, everything was sort of hard plastics. I mean, this is the door and the plastics underneath the steering wheel, and yeah, they are as hard as they look. It's all pretty hard plastics, but I wouldn't say that they're brittle. I'd say even though they're hard, they're quite good quality. So for me, absolutely not a problem. It wasn't rattling, and it didn't look as if it was going to break. So that's enough for me. Going on about the build quality. You can see here that it's starting to wear through on the seat bolster, and as I said earlier, it's only got about 83,000 kilometers on it, so I think this is a bit early. It's a bit early for the seats to start doing this, so that's a bit of a worry if you're going to be having one for a few years. If you're going to be putting a few tens of thousands of kilometers on it, these seats could potentially disintegrate. And the steering wheel also had issues. You've got 80,000 kilometers on it, and you can see what happens with the steering wheel. So if you're looking at buying one of these and you want to tell how old it is, if it's got this much wear, you're looking at one about 80,000. But apart from that, everything seemed okay with regards to wear and tear. Storage, got the cup holders here. Obviously this is the driver's one. Passenger had one identical to this. Very good location, good size, good depth. There was above the radio and the center console here that there was storage for like papers above that. We've got more storage here, but again, hard plastic. It's going to be sliding round. It's got the glove box here. It's big enough. It's huge actually. And also you've got the the door bins, I should say. So all in all, I think there's more than enough storage. It's not crazy like a Volkswagen Caddy, but I think it's a reasonable amount. The sound system in it, the sound from the speakers was decent enough. It's got an aux input, USB, Bluetooth and a CD player. It's also got controls on the steering wheels. So this is what it looked like when it's nice and cool, but if it's been in the sun for a while, the display seemed to pack up, i.e. you just wouldn't be able to see it. This would just be blank. something to bear in mind if you're looking at buying one. Check the screen is working. But the buttons on it feel good quality. Like I said, the sound was good quality. You've got the controls on the steering wheel. Nothing felt cheap in that respect. The controls for the air conditioning, they all felt, relatively solid. They didn't feel like they were going to crack or anything. The buttons felt good quality, so I got no qualms there. The car also, the van, the NV200, this one had cruise control. It worked perfectly. No complaints there. The trip computer, this was a major letdown, if you like. This is it, yeah. We got the master speedo on the left, which was huge, and then you've got this tiny little LCD display here, which has got everything else in it. Rev counter, fuel gauge, your trip computer, and your other stuff like tire pressure sensors, fuel economy, and blah blah blah. Considering that these things cost pennies, I mean, how much would it have been for them to put a bigger one in, maybe incorporate into the speedo? I think this was a cost cutting gone too far. Difficult to read. Well, you can see how small the numbers are on it. The looks of it, it's an acquired taste, I suppose. You can tell it's Japanese. It looks quite narrow, but inside it's quite spacious, and it's also extremely high up. When you're driving, you're higher than most vehicles on the road, which is really nice. I just said at the front here, I think it's a nice looking car, and from the back, I think it's also quite nice looking. You could argue that the wheels are a bit small, but I think it's fine for what it is. I've just said you that it's higher than what it looks like. It's easily higher than a Qashqai, for example, and I'd say quite a bit higher. So that's nice. You get good visibility over most cars. The A-pillar wasn't obstructing my view at all. It didn't have parking sensors at the back, but honestly, it's such a small footprint that it's not really that major an issue. I mean, it's not a long wheelbase Sprinter, so I thought the mirrors were worth a mention. I mean, they're a really good size without being too overly big or overly small. They're just the right size for what you'd expect. They don't make any wind noise that I noticed, and the electrical adjustment on them is perfect. You can have them exactly where you want, so they deserve a nice shout. Loading, what did I say here? Felt like good quality catches on the door. Yeah, the handles on the doors, the hinges, everything felt good quality, like it was going to last. Moving on to the mechanicals of the NV200, I need to sort out the spelling here. The stiffness of the body, this is one of the first things that struck me when I first got in the car, was first of all the amount of noise coming from the rear suspension when it wasn't loaded, and also there was a shimmy coming through the seats. So if you went over like a quick frequency small bumps, that would come through the seat, and literally you'd feel it, shimmy is the best thing, like a high frequency shimmy coming through the seats, which again, bit disconcerting to start with, but we did get used to it. But there's a big noise coming from the back. What is that? It's like suspension. Like my seat is vibrating. I don't know why. Yeah, there. Just going over that bump, then you can feel that like a shimmy through the seat. The steering, I said it wasn't bad at all. Very good feel through the steering. Typical Nissan, if you ask me. You didn't feel like it was completely disconnected. You felt connected to the road. I felt confident in how much grip was there. And honestly, a lot of new cars that I've driven have a lot worse steering feel than this NV200. So absolutely no problems there. But really, this is a Nissan trait. They do seem to nail the driving experience. Brakes, they were the cheapest of the cheap tyres on it. So I can't criticise the van. I think if it had good tyres on it, I think the brakes would be fantastic also. They were a bit grabby at the top of the travel, but I found that most new cars are like that, unfortunately. But once you get past that snatchy bit at the top, they were quite easy to modulate. The engine, it was a modern diesel. They're not horrendous anymore, are they? I think it's the same engine that's in the Clio, 1.5 turbo diesel. Nice, not too loud at idle, and generally a good motor, a good power band on it. Not too narrow, and it got the van moving. It was decent. I mean, I didn't think that the van was slow at any point, even when it was loaded. It was more than adequate, the power. The clutch, like I said, 83,000 kilometers this had, and the clutch pedal was right at the top of the travel. So it did lead to the clutch behaving a bit weirdly. 1 minute it was felt like a bit soft, and then it would grab like a piece of elastic. if that makes any sense. But you get used to it. And I think maybe a lot of that was due to the clutch just being worn in general. The gear change, the gear lever was mounted on the dashboard, very close to the steering wheel. Great positioning. It would go into gear, no problem. And in fact, it maybe even sucked the gears in. So no problem on the gear change. Like does it change? Yes, it does. Does it feel good when you're doing it? No, not at all. It feels horrible. But it's not like you're missing gear changes, or it doesn't want to go in, or it's like reluctant to go into gear. None of that. It just feels bad. Fuel economy. So again, back to this tiny LCD display and the trip meter. So this bar moves as you're driving. Again, how are you supposed to see that? Plus, the steering wheel sort of the rim of the steering wheel obscures your view of it as well. For the fuel economy, we did it on motorway, country roads, B roads, mountains, in the city, and we were getting about 7 litres per 100 kilometers. And considering the van was loaded, unloaded, acceptable for the van, honestly. In summary, then, would I recommend the NV200 if you're looking for a small van? I would say absolutely, yeah. With some provisos. If you're doing mega motor mileage every day, maybe the seat situation with the seat base and the hardness there is going to be a bit of an issue. But on the other hand, if you're going to be driving around town, you're in and out of the van a lot, maybe you're doing the occasional long trip, then I think the NV200 should definitely be on the list. I mean, it's a really nice driving experience in a small package, and it's got quite decent load capacity. For sure, I would take one over a car van, just because you get the van driving experience if that's what you're looking for. I only had the van for 3 days, but it did feel quite robust. I said about the driving position, I said about the driving experience, they're all good. In short, yeah, I would definitely recommend the NV200. So that's it, guys. That's my review of the NV200. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Like I said, if you want to read the article, link in the video description. If you've enjoyed the video, please give it a like. If you're not subscribed to the channel, you like these sort of videos, please subscribe. Take it easy, and I'll see you again next time.